Hey guys, it's the Martini Drafter here today, and today we're going to be going through our Week 7 battle in the Glowpoke Division in Noob Draft League. Last week we had quite the win, if I remember correctly, which I believe it was a win. We've been going 3 strong, but if anyone has been in the league with me, they know that by the end of the season I normally go about 50-50 win-loss ratio. So I'm probably going to lose my next couple games because I know my luck. And this game, I think, is going to be where we're kicking this off, because I really do not like my odds in this game because of a certain Pokemon that I may or may not be circling my screen around. Yeah, Urshifu Rapid Strike is probably the worst Pokemon in the entire draft to go against me. It is so annoying. I've had to prep a Pokemon specifically. Same with Mega Venusaur, surprisingly. Those were the 2 Pokemon that I struggled with to prep the absolute most. But you know what? We are facing the Boston Bramblins, coached by Rev765. I know that looks like a smiley face. That's not the intention, but it's still funny. And let's get into it. Urshifu Rapid Strike. Do I need to say anything about this thing? It hits very hard, automatic crits, goes straight through Protect, has 3 hitting moves. It's a water fighting type. This thing is a major menace to society with no item restrictions. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but I don't think I need to talk much about Urshifu Rapid Strike being a threat. Clefable. Clefable is a hazard setter, and a bulky one at that. So far, they've not really run it with hazards much. It's mainly been there to spread status, but you'll see more about Clefable on the next page when we go through previous matches this week. But the next Pokemon we'll move on to, because Clefable is not that interesting, is Mega Venusaur. This thing was a nightmare to prep for, because it's so tanky. I physically can't one-shot it with a single Pokemon I've got access to, other than a Ice-type Z-move from Muck, which I just like to put in perspective. This thing has Earth Power and pretty much one-shots me from that. I'm pretty sure it might be a range. It might actually not. I cannot remember, if I'm being completely honest. We've got a strat for it, don't worry about that, but you never know. It could potentially be the most annoying Pokemon on my opponent's team. And if this thing gets a growth setup, by the way, we probably are just screwed. We can probably kill it, but half our team will be dead by the time we've done it. Garchomp. It's a Garchomp. Do I need to say any more? Anyone that's played Diamond Pearl, Platinum, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, hell, even Black 2, White 2, you faced Cynthia's Garchomp, and you know full well why I'm scared of this thing. Yes, it's quad weak to Ice, yes, it's weak to Dragon and Fairy, but it's still a menace. It's still a Garchomp. It's still base 600. It's still 600 base stat total, and it's still going to be a major issue, whether you like it or not. Talonflame. Kind of maybe going to be an issue. It's the main issue for what we're planning on leading with, other than maybe low kicks. It's still a bigger issue than low kicks, though. Because we can always just switch out in front of low kicks. This thing we struggle to switch out against more, which is why it probably should be bigger, but it's not, because everything else is kind of fine against it. Next, we've got to deal with Orthworm. I love Orthworm. I'm using it in a league currently that I'm not recording. Really fun mon to use, especially when you're spamming hazards, which is exactly what it does. It sits at the start of the game, spams hazards, refuses to die, and then you just let it die, because it's got no other use in the rest of the game. Regieleki. It's base 200, it's the fastest Pokemon in the game. I believe, do not quote me on that, I'm pretty sure it is though. Regieleki, base 200 speed, Explosion, Thunder Cage if you want to trap things in, Thunderbolt. Main thing is with it, not tanky in the slightest, and it has absolutely abysmal coverage. It literally only gets normal moves and electric moves, if I remember correctly, especially at least. Low kicks is an actual problem, like unironically, because you typically see Choice Banded with stuff like First Impression, U-Turn, Knockoff, and Triple Kick, or Axe Kick. I think it's Axe Kick, actually. Drifblim. Drifblim is, unironically, I believe, their kill leader at the moment. I think Drifblim actually might be their kill leader. Because they bring sweeping everyone with Drifblim for some reason. So we have got something prepped for this thing. Mainly a certain physical attacker with Knockoff. And Sableye is just going to be there to be annoying. It's a Sableye. it's just going to be annoying. It's Sableye. But now we'll get on to the previous week's notes. Week 1 was the longest week they had, where they led with Sableye. They got a single screen up, but they got a second screen up later, so I just combined it to one. It was a Flamethrower Clefable set, Encore Sableye, Taunt Sableye, Light Clay. We got some notes on Garchomp, as you can see here. It was Explosion on Regieleki. It just kind of came on the field, nuked itself, died, obviously. And then they brought in Drifblim to kill literally everything left. Which I'd like to point out, this thing had set up, I believe, 4 Calm Minds and just sweeped everything because of Unburden. So we're going to be very careful of that and not let this thing set up in the slightest. Week 2, they led with Urshifu for some reason. They just U-turned with Urshifu. I've done that before. It's completely valid. Thunderwave with Clefable is what I meant by hazards, not by status spreading. Thunderwave Clefable, Shadow Ball Clefable, Flamethrower Clefable. This is where we just mostly got our notes on Clefable. They brought a more support-based Garchomp, which I believe they also brought in week 4. They also brought a special Talonflame with Overheat, which I thought was good to make a note of, and U-turn on low kicks. Unsurprising. Week 3, Hazard's Earthworm, like I said, is the only game that brought Earthworm to. And it was a Hazard setter that they led with. No surprises there. Physical Clefable was quite a surprise, and a mix-attacking Venusaur with Knockoff was also quite the surprise. Trailblaze Urshifu was the thing that sealed their opponent's fate, though. I would like to point out, they won Game 1, they won Game 2, they won Game 3, they won Game 4, and I believe they lost Game 5, if I remember correctly. I believe Game 5 is their only loss so far, because they haven't played Week 6, despite going into Week 7 with us. They led with Garchomp in Week 4. They immediately switched out to Clefable, I believe, where they just started clicking Thunder Wave again. Then they Healing Wished with Clefable back into Garchomp, where they started setting up hazards again. They just kept spamming Dragon Tail, and by the time their opponent was able to kill the stupid Garchomp, half their team was dead. Where Regieleki could just click a Reflect, it probably had Light Screen as well, because it gets dual screens for some reason. It's one of the best dual screen setters in the game. And then it was Calm Mind Drifblim that sealed their fate. Week 5 is the only week they've lost so far. They led low kicks and just immediately U-turned. Actually, I'm pretty sure they might have first impression something and then U-turned. Cannot 100% remember. They just exploded with Regieleki. It was very obviously a Choice Scarf low kicks, because it shouldn't have been able to outspeed something, but it did. And it was switching out after moves and stuff like that anyway. It was Sunny Day on Sableye. They had Chlorophyll Venusaur with Weather Ball that almost won them the game back, but they ended up getting one-shot by something from their remaining health. And obviously they didn't play Week 6. So currently they're at a 4-1, where I believe we are at... It might be 4-2. Yeah, we're 4-2 at the moment, which means we're losing our next 2 games, guys. Trust. It happens every league I'm in. So we'll start our team off with Navi, who's wearing a crown. We brought the crowns back because of last game, where we're bringing our Meteor Beam Power Herb set back. This is pretty much the same set as Week 1. It's planning on being a sweeper. The second that they're planning on being a late game sweeper is all I'll say. Urshifu dies. This thing really doesn't have many counters left alive. Like, yeah, Venusaur could be a problem, but yeah, no, actually, when Venusaur and Urshifu are dead, it can clean up the game, is what I'm saying. If, like, their main 3 power players are left, and, for example, Talonflame, maybe a Regieleki, maybe a Clefable, Low Kicks, Drifblim, or Sableye, stuff like that's left on the field, what do they do to my Diancie here? Absolutely zilch. I don't think they'll expect us to bring Diancie because their 3 biggest Pokemon are good against Diancie, but we are, because I can. Robin we are also bringing with Choice Scarf. This is the only time in the tournament so far, if I remember correctly, we are running 2 of the same items on a team, because I cannot, and I repeat, I cannot risk a Choice Scarfed Urshifu Rapid Strike like I think is coming this week. Because if I Psychic it, yes, it doesn't kill, it does a decent amount of damage. Dazzling Gleam is here for Garchomp. Power Gem is here for Talonflame. Shadow Ball's just here because it's Robin. It needs Shadow Ball. It's a good answer to Venusaur. Psychic's also here for Venusaur, by the way, if you couldn't tell. And it's a potential. It's basically a backup answer to Urshifu. Next Pokemon is... This is probably one of my favourite Pokemon we're running this week. And you might be thinking, why are we leading with Ace when it's not got Swords Dance? We're not running an offensive Ogerpon this week. We're running actually a support Ogerpon. I've actually had this planned for a while to do something like this. And this is the perfect matchup because Ogerpon doesn't have the best matchup, but I need to bring it just in case certain things are brought anyway. And it being a lead Pokemon, especially against something like Orthworm, where we can just Ivy Cudgel it once, it's now crippled for the rest of the game. Bear in mind we two-shot with Ivy Cudgel if it's max defense, max HP. Well, no, if it's max defense, we're two-shotting with Ivy Cudgel, as long as it's not got much HP investment. It might help with Venusaur. I don't think it's going to, though. It's mainly here for Zen Headbutt, though, on Venusaur if need be. And Spikes, obviously. I'm hoping to get up like a layer or two of Spikes and then U-turn the hell out so that our big win conditions can kill things a lot quicker and a lot easier. Next we got Frankie. Frankie was a very real candidate for the crown slot. It's specifically here for Regieleki. Let's not confuse things. It's here for Regieleki. It's a pretty good answer to Talonflame, but we've got enough of those already. So it's just generally a good Pokemon to have. If I need to sack something, like, I don't know. So in their second game, if I remember correctly? No, third game, they brought Trailblaze Urshifu, and it spelled the end of their opponent. Frankie can come in, intimidate it, drop its attack to low enough to where it doesn't kill any of our Pokemon anymore, and we can get rid of it safely. Frankie's basically here to be an Intimidate Mon, and to help us get rid of some threats if need be. It's got Protect, so that we can 1v1 low kicks, by the way. So if it's like a choice item low kicks, which I'll try and figure out earlier in the battle, I can just click Protect on a first impression, and then I've got either a free Earthquake, Darkest Laria, or Rock Slide, depending on what's left in the back. Next Pokemon, Kizaru. This was very much so going to be one of our crown Pokemon, because Assault Vest with a bunch of attacking moves, just like Week 2, which one is our Week 2 battle, by the way. Max HP, got a lot of attack, bit of defense, no special attack, obviously. It's our answer to Urshifu and Garchomp. It's only really countered by low kicks on their team, so we can get rid of this thing, get rid of low kicks with something like Ace, Robin, Nami, and our last Pokemon, Kizaru, can kind of just come in and kind of refuses to die more than anything else. I prefer for it to not fight Urshifu. Garchomp's kind of fine though. I don't really care about Garchomp. Because this exists, which is kind of useful. Next we've got Enel. Enel was something I didn't initially plan on running, but then I got my head out of my tuchus and actually looked at the game. This is the best game for Enel that it's actually been in thus far, because this thing counters the two biggest threats on their team. Firstly, it two-shots that stupid Venusaur. Yes, it takes 97% damage in the process if it's max special attack, but I don't care. I'm still two-shotting with Air Slash, and because of Choice Scarf, we're faster anyway. This is the other Pokemon with Choice Scarf, by the way. And it is our primary Urshifu answer, because even with Air Slash or Thunder Wave, we're one-shotting Urshifu, there's even a chance we kill with Volt Switch. There's a, I believe, 40% chance we kill with Volt Switch, if I remember correctly. And we're obviously running max special attack, quite a bit of speed, a little bit of HP in there, because why not? And this is what we're going to end up bringing. Volt Absorb, it's just for coverage. It's mainly here for Regieleki, really, if I'm being completely honest. Like, if Regieleki's the last Pokemon alive, for example, it's not going to click Explosion, obviously. It's just going to click Thunderbolt. So, if it clicks Thunderbolt, and if it's the last Pokemon alive, and Enel is alive, it's game over, we win. Because if they're the one that clicks Explosion, we still win the game. If they're bringing a Hyper Beam, it won't do enough damage to kill us. So, Enel ultimately would win that 1v1. So at the end of the day, we needed to bring an L. So that will be all from me today, guys. I will see you next week. Have a good one, and I'm hoping to get another win. I'm not overly hopeful this week, though, I'm not going to lie.